A 1963 telegram of the US State Department alleging that former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi and her father, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, were responsible for decisions that led to the territorial concessions to Pakistan. Reasons or perhaps an initiative or a move that for which Bharat is still bearing the brunt today in key areas. Now, according to Nishikant Dubey, Bharat had agreed to return territories in Poonch and Uri, forcibly occupied by Pakistan. It was prepared to designate the entire Neelam and Kishanganga Valley in Gurez as the international border along the line of control. The document dated 9th of February 1963 details discussions between Indian Foreign Minister Swaran Singh and Pakistan's Zulfikar Ali Bhutto that held under the mediation of the US and Britain amid Cold War pressures. The telegram says, and I quote, Swaran Singh, in presenting the Government of India proposal, described it a line of peace and collaboration, and one which accorded with ethnic and linguistic as well as important economic factors. Broadly speaking, it followed ceasefire line with certain limited adjustments. In the central sector, it straightened out the Poonch sector, and in the Muzaffarabad district, it followed the Baramulla district boundary. Thereafter, following the line of the Kishanganga watershed to south of Kishanganga Valley, leaving all of the valley and certain areas to Pakistan. As quid pro quo, there would be adjustments in favor of Indians around Kargil. Nishikant Dubey has said, and I quote, the only reason for India's problems today is the hand of Congress, question mark. With whom? End. That's the end goal. Now, earlier on Saturday, Nishikant Dubey criticized the Congress party for its role in the 1968 agreement that led to India ceding 828 square kilometers of the run of Kutch to Pakistan, despite India's victory in the 1965 Indo-Pak War. Now, but this is not the only deal and concession with Pakistan under Congress rule. Back in 1991, there was an agreement on notifications for military posturing between Bharat and Pakistan. In 1991, there was an agreement for prior notification for military exercises, maneuvers and troop movement near the border. Bharat decided to create an intimation mechanism via diplomatic channels within specified time frame before planned military activities. The Congress party's record has been of restraint, which more and more evidence reveals a compromising and soft attitude instead of a punitive, stronger approach that would protect the sovereignty and the territorial integrity of Bharat. But this is a softer attitude towards Pakistan. Now just look at the UPA regime. Dr. Manmohan Singh, ex-Prime Minister, 2008, post-26/11 Mumbai attacks. We will go after perpetrators of the crime, but we will do so in a manner that is prudent and effective. P. Chidambaram, ex-Home Minister, 2009. India is not a warmongering country. We will take diplomatic and legal steps to ensure justice. Dr. Manmohan Singh, ex-Prime Minister, 2013. After beheading of Indian soldiers, it cannot be business as usual with Pakistan. S.M. Krishna, ex-External Affairs Minister, 2011. Dialogue the only way forward. War is not an option between two nuclear states. A.K. Antony, ex-Defence Minister, 2013. Armed forces have freedom to respond to a developing situation along LOC appropriately. Now the big question emerges, has Congress ruled India have a record of compromises that have perhaps compromised with not just the sovereignty, security, but the territorial integrity of Bharat? Joining us, Tohin Sinha, National Spokesperson of the BJP, Nikul Patel, Leader Congress. Namaste, Jai Hind, gentlemen. And we are having this conversation at a time when Prime Minister Narendra Modi at Bhuj has turned around and said, Aram se roti khao, warna meri goli khao. That's the difference in the tone, tenor, and what's happened in the past and what the posture of Bharat is in the present. Nikul Patel, how would you want to respond to this charge that under Cong rule, Bharat was compromised? Bharat was more influenced by external powers like the US, the UK, the Chinese, and succumbed to those pressures and wilted compared to now.
See, if you see right from the independence, there are different times and duration during which we were in war with Pakistan, and there were so many points during which we were into diplomatic talk, and definitely there are so many treaties that has been signed as per those time durations. But if you say that we have compromised things, then I think that I would like to negate it, because We have seen during the wars what happened to Pakistan. They have to surrender. Secondly, there was a partition of Bangladesh. Thirdly, there were so many international treaties that has been signed as a part of the end of the war. So I think at present, if Bharatiya Janata Party is believing that they are more predominant than Congress, then they have their own stand. But we have always tried to build our nation to very strong with respect to our all internal security, larger interest of the citizens of the country. And I will never say that Congress had ever compromised with the nation.
Congress has not compromised with the nation. Twin Sinha?
Well, namaste, Anand. Namaste, everybody. The Congress party has a history of being callous, of being irresponsible, on issues of national security. So while Nishikant Dubey ji may have highlighted, Nehru's intent, or maybe, the possibility of him handing over Uri and Pooch, fact is that over the last many decades, Congress has squandered away opportunities to protect national interests. For instance, when 93,000 prisoners of war were in Indian captivity after 1971 war, two simple questions. Did Indira Gandhi try to utilize that position of strength to get back POK? And number two, did she try to renegotiate with Bangladesh or with East Pakistan, which became Bangladesh, the length of the chicken neck corridor, which is a vulnerable point for India even today? Now, if Indira Gandhi did not, then, it only shows that they were always very, very dismissive of our neighbors, our enemy neighbors. And, enemy neighbor is one, but obviously Bangladesh hasn't had a great equation with India, particularly, after. So my point is very simple. The Congress has squandered away multiple opportunities. The Congress lacked in political intent in the same year, 1994, when, the whole decision to implement a decision taken in 1991 was taken, wherein the troop movements were to be communicated to Pakistan. If you remember, in that same year, Congress had passed a resolution in Parliament stating a commitment to get back POK. Now, if we were to tell them in advance about the movement of our troops, how was it even practically possible to get back POK? So I think, the Congress always lacked in political intent and political willpower, as you rightly pointed out. After 2008 terror attacks, even then, Dr. Manmohan Singh, ruled out the possibility of retaliatory strikes as punitive action. In 2007, he is said to have considered handing over Siachen. So I think all of these prove that the Congress has always been dismissive on the issue of India's land and on the issue of national security.
I had the chance to speak with General Nirmal Kumar Vij, the former army chief, 2003 to 2005. So soon after the Kargil conflict, he took over as army chief. He was part of the entire Kargil conflict. He's also a 1971 war veteran. This is what General Vij had to say, a small excerpt. Just listen to this, please. Let me take you back a little to the time when you were a young junior officer and perhaps a commander at the 71 war. Yeah. Now, compared to, was there a huge amount of international influence at that time compared to a Donald Trump claiming he's the one who brokered ceasefire this time around? How has the dynamic changed? And at every point, I come back to that question. Have we let the enemy off the hook? And has that come back to hurt us?
Even then, if you remember, the 7th Fleet came into Bay of Bengal. The Americans were putting pressure on us to stop it because they knew that the Pakistanis will not be able to withstand us in the western sector. As you only mentioned that we almost were on the gates of Lahore. Somewhere near that post office, which is, I believe, outside Lahore.
Yeah, the post office, correct. General D.B. Shekhatkar has pictures of his, command and the troops present there.
So the point is, but we stopped the war because our purpose was to divide Pakistan into two. And when the moment we took Bangladesh, the ceasefire was declared by us. So that is 71, but the pressure was there. The Americans were putting pressure on us. I believe, I've learned, I am not sure, that the Chinese were also wanting to come in. And they were told by the Russians to lay off. So they said otherwise they'll use nukes. This is what I read those days.
Okay.
From whatever came in the paper.
No, but land and territory that Bharat had acquired, we don't learn from our enemies also. Chini to jahan ghus jate hain, wahin baith jate hain. Why didn't we go back and sit where we were and say, acha, yahan se is the new normal?
That we have done, unfortunately. That is outside my realm of scope. But like we gave away Haji Pir after 65. Now Haji Pir has a tremendous value. If Haji Pir was with us, then the valley will not be separated,
Correct.
From which you are there. But that has been the government approach. In 71 also we gave away 93,000 prisoners.
Correct.
And today the Pakistan has the audacity to tell you that we will not stand by Shimla agreement. They begged for Shimla agreement. And Mrs. Gandhi, in her wisdom, for whatever reason, she agreed. So these are the governmental decisions which at times one may not agree with. But ultimately it is their call because we are in a democratic setup.
No, but there's a full conversation, goes into 35 minutes. He's just come with another book that is called Alone in the Ring. And that also says that Bharat is isolated. But there is nobody supporting Bharat. Just going back to Nikul Patel and Tuhin Sinha. Nikul Patel, you heard that. A former army chief who served in 71 had shrapnel on his face. That's what, he's borne the bullets right out there. And he says, I perhaps personally didn't agree with Mrs. Gandhi's decision. Bharat buckled under pressure. We ceded territory that we had already acquired. We could have ensured that Kartarpur Sahib was here. We could have ensured POK at that time was here. We had 90,000 of their prisoners. This is something which many believe was perhaps one of the biggest. And today the same Pakistan which begged for Shimla agreement then, agreed to make it a bilateral issue, today says it will not consider it anymore.
See, I think along with you and Tuhinji, entire country listened right now from your platform, and he said that we are a democratic country and the decision by the government is the best. And many of us have thought that at that particular time there can be such a negotiation or there can be some acquisitions during those days. Similarly, at present also, when after Operation Sindoor, lot of countries people feel that India was in a better position to go along with the Pakistan and ask for POK as well as some territorial things. But definitely the Pradhan Mantri along with the government had gone with the ceasefire. And I don't want to get into it, but definitely we are a country where we feel that we didn't initiate anything, and we always feel that we are not like China for expanding our lands and territories. Definitely now looking to the neighbors, the government feel that we need to do that, and that's their own prerogative right now. So I don't feel that Congress had ever tried to make the country feel that we are not working in the larger interests of the country.
Now, here is the thing, the difference, sir, is, and if my memory serves me right, in 1964, soon after the passing of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, the parliament had unequivocally ratified that Pakistan occupied Kashmir as sovereign Bharatiya territory and that it will always remain so. In 1971, Bharat was not responding to an act of terror. It was not going in like in Operation Sindoor with an objective of destroying just the terror bases. 1971, it was an open war between two nations. And when you have war and there is territorial supremacy, that would have given Bharat long-term sovereignty and political advantage, and perhaps peace, the bleed by 1,000 cuts would not have happened at that time to cede this advantage. How is that fair? Or was it because the leadership thought these lands don't matter to us? Like Aksai Chin didn't matter, not a blade of grass grows there, etc., etc. Tuhin Sinha, are you willing to buy Mr. Nikul Patel's explanation?
Anand, in Pahalgam, 26 people were killed. But if you remember the early 2000s, especially 2004 to 2008, there were bomb blasts which have killed more than 200 people in the heart of India's financial capital. And even then, these people were obsessed with the vacuous Aman ki Asha. So, these people had made India, they suffer from, the Congress party, I'm sorry, suffers from an inferiority complex. Even today, if you look at the way Rahul Gandhi has tried to spread misconceptions around an innocuous statement of the External Affairs Minister, Can you imagine any country informing the terrorists? Congress, number one, is logically challenged. Number two, it is intellectually challenged. Number three, it is a cowardly party. Can you imagine us telling Pakistan that we are going to strike you, and that is why 100 terrorists got killed? And they want us to believe that Masood Azhar at 75 is the fittest of them all, who managed to escape amidst all that. So this Congress party, has mischief written all over its intent today. And it was never serious about national security. But yes, it has squandered away multiple opportunities. Some time back, about an hour back, if you've heard Prime Minister's speech, look at the language, look at the tenor. That is how you deal with Pakistan. Pakistan, chupchap roti khao, warna meri goli khaoge. I think that this is the language which a goon country, which has managed to bully us for decades. This is the language which that country understands. And I'm so proud that Honorable Prime Minister is speaking to them in a language which they understand.
But what about the compromises of the past, Nikul Patel? Those are the ones that continue to haunt us today. The leadership that questions what has been done has to turn back and say, what have we handed over? Look at the difference, the stark contrast. In 2013, Defense Minister of the country says, I have no money to buy weapons. I can't buy aircraft. We were 3 squadrons short. And he says, I don't have money to buy aircraft. And cut to that, exactly 12 years later, 4 days before Operation Sindoor, a deal to buy, another 63,000 crore deal to buy 28 more aircraft is being signed. What, intent somewhere, when the leader of the opposition and then the largest opposition party turns around and asks questions, they have to take onus for what they did, what they allowed to let go. Will you cede an advantage like that? Like the one we had in 65, like the one we had in 71?
Yeah,
did we truly avenge 26/11? Till Bahawalpur was bombed, till Muridke was bombed.
Yeah, fine. See, you are asking so many questions to past what happened, and definitely those all things are answerable. But if you see, if the present government and the Prime Minister is feeling that he is very strong enough to take all strong decisions, then I think he must. He also says that we are with the new war policy and it's an act of war. Then why they didn't act it? They just want to go on ceasefire with someone else, which told that you need to go for because they want to it. I think this is way BJP reacts, and that is what we want to portray. At our time, suppose what you are telling that some decisions were made. I think that this time also the same questions has been faced by Bharatiya Janata Party government. So I feel that whatever decisions were taken at that time will be with respect to the government decision. At present, if the decisions are due to government and Prime Minister, I think intent of both the same, that we don't want war. And I think BJP is telling so many times that we don't want war. The thing can be discussed and negotiated. I think that is what the similarity in both the governments.
To Insana?
Well, we have very clearly, there is no similarity between the Congress approach and the BJP approach. We have made it very clear that if dialogue has to happen, it can happen only on 2 issues. Number one, when is Pakistan handing over POK to us? And number 2, when are they handing over the remaining terrorists to us? This was not the tenor of the Congress party, who used to pander to Yassin Malik, the representative of Pakistan in Kashmir. We have all seen pictures of Dr. Manmohan Singh, in friendly gestures with Yassin Malik. There is a massive difference. This is a new India. It can't even be compared to what it used to be pre-2014. And mind you, this is just the start. This is just the trailer. An incorrigible country like Pakistan will not give up its terror obsession so easily. In some way or the other, they would want to avenge the humiliation, and that is when India's response will no longer be proportionate. It will be of a magnitude which will probably, signal the beginning of the end of Pakistan.
Nikul Patel?
My friend is so excited, and he must also remember how the plane was hijacked and what the government BJP at that time had done. So don't try to buy an argument that Congress government had done nothing. I think if you feel that you can do it, then I think you must do it. Just speaking over here will not make the things. And cursing Congress is not going to help you out in letting people know about it, that okay, there is no now ceasefire, and even BJP people have come out and say that okay, we can have peace talk and we don't want war right now. So I think both the way, I think both governments are working in the larger interest of the country, and not that should be any criticism on-
here is the difference, sir. Here is the difference, Nikul Patel. There is a flaw in that argument that you make. The flaw in the argument is in 1965 and 1971 and even during 1999 Kargil, at one point in 1965 and 1971, Bharat was in open war with Pakistan, and it was Pakistan which was the aggressor. Bharat had captured territory and it had 90,000 prisoners, POWs. Whose pressure did Bharat yield to at that time, when Bharat had the advantage and the opportunity to press home and correct certain anomalies? Why was it not done? 1999 to 2001, the Kargil operations at that time, the entire aspect was limited to only Kargil. It was a conflict. There was an arrangement between the troops that they would not allow this conflict to spill over into other areas. Now, who made that arrangement? Whether both honored that arrangement, that is for people to document. But at that time also, Bharat did not cede territories. Bharat did not cede territories that belonged to, that Bharat had occupied, especially the peaks. Some of the peaks, we continue to hold those strategic advantage. But what hurts us now is Uri. What hurts us now are regions like in Poonch, in Tangdar, where the Pakistanis are sitting on top, and these were lands which had Haji Pir. He talked about Haji Pir. Look at who ceded that territory. Why? Was the strategic importance of holding on to those territories lost with the powers that be? Had those territories been with Bharat at this point in time, since 71, do you think the enemy would have been able to do what they have done, the amount of damage that they have caused, come in so unhindered and try to bleed us so many times? There is a flaw there, sir, when you ask this question, because this time around Bharat did not go with a territorial intention. It went with a terror intention, counter-terror intention. That was the intention. The escalation was done by the Pakistanis. Who waved the flag? Which DMO picked up the phone and hotline and said, I'm sorry, let's stop? Who begged? The Pakistanis did. So how can you make that comparison, Nirmal?
So if Pakistan is begging,
Nikul, sorry.
Your argument is that Pakistan is one who begged for ceasefire, and that is why our government took a decision, and they want that we need to go for a ceasefire. I think that is what you want to explain, I think. And if it's so, then what about what Garam Khoon Pradhan Mantri is telling then? I think that is also has to be asked. What happened to Pahalgam attack before that? So many incidents took place in the country where the terrorists have tried to kill our people also during after 2014. So I think every government rightly feels that what is best at that particular point of time, and that is what present government had gone with the decision of ceasefire. No. Similarly, at that time also that might have happened. I think that is what the correct way of representing the thing, rather cursing Congress of their decision.
No, nobody is cursing the Congress party. People are the Congress party, which puts out memes, AI generated memes, and then takes the entire argument to a separate hyperbole, will have to reflect on the past. A lot of what is happening today, mere words, twisting somebody's words is so big. Then the whole aspect stands with someone who didn't even credit or understand. A nation's Prime Minister did not understand the significance of Ladakh and Aksai Chin. What kind of a world leader was that person then? What kind of a visionary was that person? A person who saw through the horrors of partition and realized what the enemy is capable of, could not see that the next biggest challenge was China. Something that even a Veer Vinayak Damodar Savarkar was able to read down and write it in 1942. Something that a Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose had written about in 1938. These are people who could very clearly see that the biggest challenge for Bharat is China. And the nation's first Prime Minister thought not a blade of grass grows there, so let's cede that entire land piece of 60,000 square kilometers. So please tell me, sir, what is the Congress party going from what authority with what authority? And from The history is telling the tale. I don't want to keep going on and on about it. The Congress cannot turn around and say we had nothing to do with the past. They were the ones who did it. They were the ones who decided under their rule to shut down ordnance factories. They were the ones who said let's do away with the army because nobody is going to attack us. They were the ones who went on and said Hindi Chini bye bye while the Chinese were actually getting in. They had no clue. Tell me if that Prime Minister is not documented telling the people of Assam, I'm sorry, we cannot do anything but Assam is gone. Tell me, sir.
Yeah, I will respond. Yeah, definitely. Your argument is what you want to say is that the visionary Prime Minister then had not done anything. I think there are so many examples where Congress Prime Minister at that time had tried to establish so many public sector undertakings, DRDO. I think Congress is the person.
Sir, what is the point of having every public sector understanding when there is no land, there is no sovereignty, when you are ceding space, sir? My point is, sir, did in 1962 did the Army General have a doctrine? Did the government have a doctrine what the armed forces had to do? In 2001 Operation Parakram, did the armed forces have a doctrine? Were they clear about what they, or were they just asked to mobilize forces? And they have no clue what needs to be done.
Not visionary. You want to buy an argument that prime ministers were not visionary? I don't think so. Today we are the country which in the entire world is taking note of it. I think the seeds and the roots were what built by Congress.
Sir, which visionary prime minister would turn around and say we are willing to share nuclear data with you after the Pokhran tests? We are willing to share the nuclear technology with you, which with a nation whose entire doctrine itself is to erase Bharat. Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, that document is also out in public domain. It's declassified already. Putin Sena, final word.
You know, the Congress attitude was flawed when it was in power. It is 100 times more flawed today. Did you hear? He said your argument is that the DGMO of Pakistan called up our DGMO. It's not an argument. It's a stated fact. The world knows it. He's calling it an argument because these people are skeptical about our prowess. These people are skeptical about our powers and about our capabilities. The wicked glee which Rahul Gandhi has shown in demanding to know what are the losses in our side. Have you seen them celebrate half as much when our DGMO listed out 11 PAF air bases which have been destroyed?
Why are you so worried about whether Rahul Gandhi is celebrating it or not? I want to know why is all of nation not celebrating like it should? Are you sure the entire nation is celebrating as it should post Operation Sindoor? If not, why is a question that the BJP needs to ask itself. Secondly, are we going to rest at this laurel or is this just going to set the alarm bells ringing because there is a 6,000 kilometer border which is unmarked, and there is a nation that has gone ahead and has a temerity, whose interim advisor has a temerity to combine and speak with all of Northeast Bharat in one breath. When he himself has got no position of election or selection within the government. So when nations around us have the audacity and temerity to speak like that, sir, then I think there are miles to go and promises to keep. And I think that humility is important.
Many victories grow stronger with time. One of the reasons why the nation is not wholeheartedly celebrating is that we are still on the watch out. Pakistan being a mischievous nation, we are still on the watch out, and we will make sure that any misadventure by them from here on will be retaliated even more. So, but in hindsight, when you look at this, the importance of Operation Sindoor will be historic.
Let's see the importance of Operation Sindoor. Does it mean a doubling of the defense budget to improve the foot on ground, the technology that is required, and also to try and block the lapses that have emerged? Where the enemy sitting on the eastern side has been looking at this as a testing ground and will come back far better prepared and has an economy 5 times our size. So that is something that we have to also be very, very mindful of. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Jai Hind. We stay here on the entire Operation Sindoor space and the national security space because there is a development, viewers. In the wake of Operation Sindoor, Pak Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Field Marshal Asim Munir are on their first foreign visit to Turkey. Shehbaz Sharif held talks with Turkish President Erdogan and thanked him for his support in the military confrontation with Bharat. Returning the gesture, Erdogan reaffirmed support for Pakistan. Bharat's intelligence agencies have confirmed that Turkey sent drone trainers to instruct the Pakistani armed forces. Now let's try and understand this a little more in detail. I'm just going to walk up to show our viewers. Now, Turkey has emerged as a major supplier of arms and training to Pakistan. Here's a deep dive. T-129 attack helicopters in July 2018. Turkey and Pakistan signed this deal for 30 T-129 attack helicopters. These are valued at approximately $1.5 billion. Now, however, delivery has been delayed due to US export restrictions. Then there is the Bayraktar TB2 armed drones. Pakistan ordered 3 Bayraktar TB2 unmanned aerial vehicles from Turkey in 2021 and received them in 2022. The Anka S-Mail, these are the UAVs. Turkish Aerospace Industries and Pakistan's National Engineering and Science Commission signed an agreement for joint production of the Anka S medium altitude long endurance UAVs. Milgem class corvettes. In 2018, Pakistan contracted Turkey for the construction of 4 Milgem class corvettes for the Pakistan Navy. 2 ships are being built in Turkey, 2 will be built in Pakistan. The deliveries are expected between 23 and 24, but they're still delayed. So perhaps another 6 to 18 months. That's the time frame. Now, beyond the military training, there is also information wars waged by Turkey and Pakistan in a collaborative effort. NGOs linked Erdogan family accused of backing Hamas and Pak-sponsored anti-India campaigns. 2 weeks before Pahalgam attack, Tugwa, a think tank linked to Erdogan, hosted event of Kashmiri independence. Turkey's TRT accused of projecting resistance in Kashmir, giving a platform to separatists. 2021 report says TRT World employed 50 Pakistanis out of 300 staff based in Istanbul. Turkish media accused of slandering Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman for growing ties with Bharat. TRT World and Anadolu Agency among first international platforms to echo Pakistan's stand on the abrogation of Article 370. Pakistan and Turkey accused of using OIC platform to amplify narratives on CAA, NRC and Jammu and Kashmir, claiming Islamophobia. There is more. The disinformation extends to eastern borders as well. A think tank, Turkish Century, has released Greater Bangladesh map with Indian territory. Greater Bangladesh includes northeastern states, Bengal, Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha and Sikkim. Mohammad Yunus, accused of entering Pakistan-Turkey disinformation nexus. He's bolstered Islamist theory of takeover in the northeast by flooding areas with illegal Muslim immigrants. Greater Bangladesh theory accused of using in the garb of refugee rights and appeasement politics. So there are more and there is more on this front. Now, let's move with the Turkey angle. Let's also take this conversation forward to the next aspect here on this edition of The Right Stand. Let's talk about Bangladesh. Now, confronting a major political crisis, the interim government in Bangladesh, led by Mohammad Yunus, has now blamed defeated forces and a foreign conspiracy for alleged obstructions in its legislative agenda. This comes amid the rift between Bangladesh Army Chief over the demand to conduct elections, which Mohammad Yunus looks to delay. According to top intelligence sources, the military may argue that the delay in elections violates constitutional norms and could push the president to declare a state of emergency. Now, during this period, the military may urge the president to dissolve the interim government and expedite election process. But another angle, there is now alarm that Bangladeshi territory could pose a major security threat for Bharat, as Bangladesh has unveiled plans in March this year to revive a dormant World War II era airfield with Chinese support. Lalmonirhat Air Base in Bangladesh. It's a 4.2-kilometer runway that was built in World War II, has been silent for decades until now. This is just 12 kilometers from the Bharatiya border, 135 kilometers from the Siliguri corridor or the Chicken Neck. Chinese delegation was spotted, according to news reports, in April-May 2025. Bharat's corridor of exposure, Lalmonirhat, 135 kilometers from Bagdogra, 110 kilometers from the Hashmira Rafale Squadron, 95 kilometers from Sukhna, where the Trishakti Corps are based. Now, if you understand this, there is a serious security threat brewing on our eastern side. Is it time for Bharat to shore up defenses closer to Bangladesh for a possible military confrontation? And is this all being orchestrated by the larger, bigger enemy that is China? But how will an active base be a danger for Bharat? Now, this was built in 1931 by the British for Burma campaign during World War II. The airfield currently hosts a Bangladesh Air Force maintenance unit. An active base would allow surveillance of Bharatiya installations, troops and infrastructure. The base would give recon advantage over Bharat's crucial Siliguri corridor. Activated base could be used for aircraft deployment and training missions. This is a serious crisis that is brewing. Lal Munir Haat. One needs to see, read and understand the importance of the chicken neck. Abhijit Majumdar, author and columnist, joins us. Salah Shoaib Chaudhry, Bangladesh journalist, also with us. My namaste and Jai Hind. Thank you very, very much. Now, your thoughts on this, Abhijit?
On the current situation, Anand?
Yes, and also Lal Munir Haat. How critical is this? And do we have a concern at hand? Are we looking at this Bangladesh situation perhaps a tad too lightly?
See, Lal Munir Haat is like a dormant airstrip which China, I believe, wants. And similarly, after that there are, the Americans want, for instance, the Ali Kadam air base, stuff like that. But Anand, yes, these are concerns we should be very, very closely following the developments there. Because we should have countermeasures, as Himanta Biswa Sharma today posted, and we know this for a long time. If they are talking about India's vulnerability at the chicken's neck, then they have a thinner than chicken's neck in two places, and which will actually cut off Bangladesh not just from Chittagong, but it will cut off Dhaka from the rest of the country as well. So these are posturing, etc. But the important thing to remember, Anand, is that the Yunus government, at least now, does not seem to be on the same page with the Bangladesh armed forces. The Bangladesh army chief is clearly, very unhappy, pissed off with the Yunus government for unilaterally trying to give, open the Chittagong corridor for the UN, which will, in Bengali there's a saying called Khal Kete Kumirana. You sort of build a canal to get the alligators in.
Yeah.
So it's like that. The army has said that they've told the government you are not to do any such misadventure without our buy-in, without telling us. Second is, Professor Yunus is hanging there by a thread. If today BNP launches a full-scale agitation, he will have to resign within 24 hours. If today the army actually decides that please, tells him please step down, he has no cards left to play. The last final card he has played, saying all this is again going back to the same old broken record that this is all India's conspiracy, and conspiracy being hatched with India is hatching a conspiracy with the Bangladesh army and BNP and Army League, everybody other than Professor Yunus and the Islamists, the rabid Islamists like Jamaat, Hifazat, etc., and the students who are also trained. The core of them have been apparently trained by Hizbut Tahrir, one of the most dangerous Islamist groups, which flies under the radar in Bangladesh. And so it is not that easy to make these moves. Bangladesh also knows that there are, India has assets on ground. It will cause disruption that, it won't be able to handle. Even China will not be able to, help it handle, because whether geographically or strategically, India still has serious strengths in Bangladesh. So I don't think, beyond rhetoric, they will play with fire, but we should not be, we should not, place it on trust. We should be absolutely prepared for any eventuality on the eastern border. It is no less dangerous, it is no less volatile, it is no less important, crucial than the western border with Pakistan.
See, one of the concerns, viewers, is that the real enemy or the real problem is not Pakistan or Bangladesh. The enemy is the one who's playing on the shadows, and he's propping up these proxies, and that's the CCP. That's Xi Jinping-led CCP and the People's Republic of China, as they call themselves. So the CCP and the PLA are the real threat, and they are in it for the long game. They will go for the jugular, or they will go for this entire move sometime in the 2030s, closer to their actualization of the entire dream that was laid out by Mao Zedong, closer to the time that the CCP is closing towards its 100-year completion. So this is a long game, and in that long game they will prepare. So they've already upped the Hutang air base. It's no longer just a small military it's a proper air base where a JF-17 can land. Their drones, UAVs can now land. So they've improved that post Galwan. So in the last 3-4 years, that's what they've done as far as Tibet is concerned. Salah Shoaib Chaudhry, now if they now increase their presence in Bangladesh, start getting grip, and if this Lalmonirhat airbase that the Chinese are eyeing is purely because they want to ensure, straddle and somewhere decouple the entire northeast of Bharat from mainland Bharat. And Bangladesh then becomes just a tool, an instrument, given its current economic state. Ji.
Thank you very much, Anandji. First of all, we have to understand that Yunus, he is not heading a government. It's an illegal regime. And Yunus himself is a mercenary, a foreign passport holder, and over 12 so-called advisors in Yunus Council, all of them are foreign passport holders. And Yunus also has appointed Khalilur Rahman, an US passport holder, citizen, as the national security advisor. So it's a very broad-based game of the international players, as you had mentioned from behind the screen. They are on play in Bangladesh. Now, about this Lalmonirhat airport, when Yunus went to China, he made several commitments to Chinese counterpart, including this Lalmonirhat airport, including the Tista barrage, and some other projects. And at that time, China, they considered Yunus as their ally in its ambition against Bharat or India. Now, the same Yunus is advancing his another agenda of granting military corridor to Arakan. Corridor to US deep state and so-called United Nations. So these weapons actually, they will be going to topple down the Myanmar government. In other words, it will be used against China. So now, anticipating the whole atmosphere scenario, our army chief, General Wakar Zaman, he has warned that Yunus or his regime cannot advance such projects. These are certain things should be decided by any elected government. And the army chief was emphasizing Yunus declare election roadmap and hold the election by 30th of December. But Yunus has no intention of holding an election even within the next 10 years, because, as I have just mentioned, he is a mercenary sent with lots of assignments to destabilize the whole region through Bangladesh and to turn Bangladesh into a new battlefield, similarly as Ukraine, a proxy of or battlefield of proxy wars. Definitely, if that happens, it will pose serious threat to India. Now, Anandji, I'd like to draw your kind attention to another important issue. Just 4 days ago, Bangladesh Armed Forces, they raided a local garment factory in Chittagong city. and recovered 30,000 uniforms of KCNF, Kuki Chin National Front. Though
Wow.
the total size of the population of Cochin is 12,000. And our army, during today's briefing, they have admitted, yes, the uniforms were recovered, and they have said they are now trying to understand why such a large volume of uniforms were made. And there are some reports in the media, Anandji, that in the same factories, establishments which is owned by an Islamist, they were also manufacturing uniform for some insurgency group based in Manipur and Arakan Rohingya Salvation Army. And our armed forces today, during the press conference, they have said that ARSA is patrolling Bangladesh-Myanmar border with weapons. ARSA, Arakan Rohingya Salvation Army.
So the same garment factory was making uniforms for ARSA, that is the Arakan Rohingya Salvation Army, deemed a terrorist outfit, and you're saying that they were also making 30,000 outfits or 13,000 outfits?
30,000,
30,000 outfits declared by the army that they've bracked down in Chittagong for the Kuki Chin National Front.
Yes, and in the city, Chittagong city.
In Chittagong city, whereas the Kuki
Yes.
numbers are supposed to be, like you said, around 12,000. So
12,000,
where are these
12,000.
30,000 outfits being made for?
Yes. So why they made 18,000 additional? They're trying to understand. And according to information, as I said, that the same factory was manufacturing uniform for some insurgency group based in Manipur.
In Manipur also.
So, yes. So this is a very much that Yunus is facilitating cross-border terrorist activities, and he's letting enemies of India to use Bangladeshi land for such activities. This is a very solid evidence, energy, that our army has also admitted that yes, uniforms were recovered.
But Salah Chaudhary, let me ask you, how is the current disposition? You said that they are all US citizens, including the National Security Advisor and Mohammed Yunus. They have a US passport. They are dual citizens. So they should be US plants, because many believe that it was under the Biden administration that Sheikh Hasina was forced to flee and Yunus was planted there, and he flew straight away from the US. And also after that, soon after, he went back to the US only, and there he openly claimed that this entire student union movement was all an orchestrated one, and it was done under certain direction and plan. On the other hand, he is opening up air bases for the Chinese and allowing a Chinese an ingress. So is he playing a double game? Is he China's guy? Is he US's guy? Is he nobody's person? Or is he going to bark for the highest bidder? What is the story with Mohammed Yunus? And is this true that he somewhere said that he is not going to be there beyond the 30th of June? Is that true?
First of all, the number of advisors in Yunus regime, they are not only US passport holders. They are a French passport holder, Swiss passport holder, British passport holder. So it's a bunch of foreign mercenaries. Number two, as you asked, that for whom Yunus is working. Yunus is a person without any morale. He is here to sell Bangladesh, and he is also ready to sell himself to the highest bidder. So first he went to Beijing. Beijing offered him something, he was sold there, and then possibly he got something else, he got getting sold again. And also one more information for your kind information, that in Dhaka city, as you know, that army deployment is being increased for the last 3 days because of the security reason. And Yunus regime, they are also simultaneously mobilizing jihadis and Islamists. For example, Hifazat-e-Islam, Hizb ut-Tahrir, Ansar al-Islam, Al-Qaeda. They are all coming up on the street. That's why Yunus today said that Bangladesh is heading towards a civil war. That civil war Yunus is actually creating or trying to create. And Yunus understands that our armed forces has taken a firm stand to protect the sovereignty of Bangladesh, and they are not going to let any foreign elements and mercenaries.
But Salah Shoaib Chaudhary ji, the armed forces also 20 to 25% of the Bangladesh armed forces, including the Bangladesh border force, are highly fundamental and highly radical. There was an attempt at coup and trying to even usurp or assassinate the current army chief that was foiled. So those reports have also emerged. General Wij had a very interesting point of view on Bangladesh. Just would like to quickly play out before we run out of time, and then we'll come back to you, gentlemen. In the book, you've talked about some portions where you also hint at a larger enemy. So even now you spoke about China as the big enemy or the biggest one. You also mentioned Bangladesh. So in the current scenario, how do you read China?
No,
what should be Bharat's position, and is it a two-front war? Is it 2.5? Is it three-front war for us? How should we look at it?
It's a very, very important question for India. Not only for us here, for the government of India, for everybody in the country to understand this, that India is in one of the most dense environment as far as our security paradigm is concerned. You see, your northern borders are heavily invested by China, and they've been not wanting to settle the border issue. On the west is Pakistan, which is a sworn enemy, because they feel that their very survival depends on keeping India in turmoil. Then you have now Bangladesh, which has come up, with whom we had decent relation, but now bit of a turmoil. And Bangladesh is very important for us to move to the east. To conduct our war against China, or defend ourselves against China, we need Bangladesh. We have to pass through that small chicken's neck.
You think this chicken's neck is going to be perhaps a jugular that the Chinese will go for with the Bangladesh?
In Myanmar. It is a problem.
No, the Siliguri corridor.
Yes, it is a problem. It will be a problem, and
आपके टाइम में हरकत करने की कोशिश की थी उन्होंने?
In our time, you see, there was a friendly government. Sheikh Hasina's government, which stayed on for 14 years, was a friendly government, and the reality is also that India has helped Bangladesh a lot.
Correct.
To develop economically. But now with the present government and the kind of uncertainty which lies with them, which they even are telling you that, look, the eastern part of India is isolated.
Yeah.
I will not trust them. And we will need troops to take care of that part also.
Abhijit, quick response?
Yeah, he's right. I mean, it's a very, very important front, no less than the Pakistan front. But Anand, I wanted to put in a very a small thing on which forces are acting in Bangladesh. See, now it's a hodgepodge of influence. There is no doubt that Professor Yunus comes from is backed by the deep state, by the Democrat State Department, which, by the way, still more or less is in charge. After Trump has come, no new no new hirings, no new postings, etc. have been made. Bangladesh seems to be very, very low on Trump's list. So the previous CIA, the previous State Department officials, and the previous policy is actually in motion in Bangladesh where America is concerned.
Right. But
China has been actually trying to influence the student advisors and Jamaat and this Islamist fringe of Bangladesh, and actually taking them in batches.
I'm running out of time. I'm running out of time. But here's the thing: what China is doing, why is Bharat not moving in? This is our neighborhood. We are the big brother. We should ensure that the rest, and especially the naughty ones, are either made to stand up on the bench or sit quietly in one corner. This is something this is part of statecraft. Why aren't we doing it? That's the big question. We leave with that with our viewers to think about, and of course the think tank, those who are responsible for Bharat's security and the longevity, territorial integrity, to think about. Thank you, gentlemen. Namaste.
Co-presented. This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
The world in the next couple of years to become the third largest economy globally. Joining me now is Dr. Sanjeev Sanyal, economist and member of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council. Thank you very much. First of all, many congratulations. India now the fourth largest economy officially as per the IMF's outlook that came out over the weekend. What is fascinating, though, is the speed at which it has happened. Every trillion The first trillion got crossed in 2007. The second trillion took another 7 years from 2007 to 2014. Then the next trillion from 2014 to 2021. But the last trillion, that is from 3 trillion to 4 trillion, has gone in just the last 4 years. What would you attribute this faster pace of growth to, so much so India is now the fourth largest economy in the world?
Well, welcome to the joys of compounding. As with any kind of compounding, it is the result of now some 35 odd years of sustained growth. But what is interesting is that since in the post-COVID period, India has not only grown at a consistent pace, but by a very large margin over other large economies. So growing at somewhere in the 6 to 7% range consistently, when many countries, most countries in the world are struggling to even manage 2-3% growth. In fact, countries like Japan or Germany are barely growing at all. So this is a situation where clearly this compounding process is now really flicking into our favor, and we are able to generate these kinds of expansions.
But Mr. Sanyal, one thing, of course, is that, we're number 4 now, and if we continue in the same trajectory, 6% plus growth over the next couple of years, the expectation is that India would surpass Germany by the middle of 2027. Germany is currently growing at under 1%, and India is growing at over 6%. But it also comes at a time of intense, economic uncertainty, particularly on the trade front. You've seen the Trump tariffs, etc. What do you reckon are the headwinds between now and, let's say, 2027, when India is expected to surpass Germany, that could be an impediment in this fast rate of growth?
Well, there are two parts to this. When you're talking about international headwinds, do remember this is about relative performance when you're talking about rankings of economies. So if it's hurting us, it's also hurting Germany. So from that limited perspective, international headwinds don't really matter, because both Germany and India face it. So we are growing at 6%, they are growing at less than 1%. So in that sense, in about 18 months to 24 months, we will surpass them. But in absolute terms, this is an issue. We are growing at somewhere in the 6.5% range. But of course, despite the fact that we are the world's 4th largest economy now, in per capita terms, we are still quite poor. So we would like to grow even faster than this, perhaps over 7% a year, but it's difficult to do this under these circumstances. So, if in purely from a ranking perspective, it might not matter, but in terms of Viksit Bharat and our ambition of becoming a developed country over the next quarter of a century, this uncertainty does matter.
So what needs to be done to amp up that per capita income growth? Because India is currently about $2,500 per capita. China is probably 5 times more than that, more than $10,000 per capita. And in a big country with a young population, a large young population, how do you amp up that particular parameter?
So first of all, we are no longer at 2,500. We are now somewhere around $3,000 per capita income, which is still low, there too this compounding process will matter. So of course, I point out to them that in order to have higher per capita GDP, you need to have larger GDP. So this growth that we just talked about is important, but we need to speed it up, and we will be doing this sustaining this growth at a time where the external environment may not be as conducive as was the case during China's high growth phase. There are many things that we therefore consequently need to do in terms of being flexible about the new environment. One of them is that we need to build quickly on bilateral trade deals, because if we do want our export sector to add to our growth, then we need to adapt. So as you know, we have now recently done a free trade agreement with the UK. We are in advanced discussions on free trade with the US as well as with the European Union. And of course, we already have existing ones with Australia, Japan, the UAE, and so on. So we are building up a network of bilateral free trade agreements in order to be able to keep our export markets open. So that's one big area. The second big thing is to keep our domestic growth momentum going. And there, of course, many important things have happened in the last few years. One is that we have managed to bring inflation into a reasonable range of 2 to 6% with the inflation targeting. And in fact, right now, inflation is running at only 3%. So that gives us a degree of freedom to bring down our cost of capital in the long to medium run. So that is something very, very important, because once you brought down the cost of capital, that's important. Secondly, while there are always complaints about improving the GST, but the fact is, GST is a huge innovation in terms of having united our market. You can always improve this system, but it was a massive jump from what used to exist before that, when we weren't even a unified market. So that was another big thing. But let me say that we need to keep doing more reforms forward, both to the GST and other things, but a myriad number of these process reforms that we need to keep doing. So whether it is ease of doing business, ease of living, and so on and so forth. And of course, we need to be open to
Good evening, you're watching Brass Tacks. I'm Zakir Jacob. As India concludes Operation Sindoor, the damage of the extent is only becoming visible now. The Prime Minister today finished 11 years in office. He was on a visit to his home state, Gujarat. He spoke directly to the people of Pakistan from the ramparts in Bhuj. He spoke directly to the children of Pakistan, saying that they need to make a choice between an army and a state that uses terror as an instrument of state policy, that they need to make a choice on whether or not this army and this state needs to continue to represent them, or whether they should throw out their elected politicians and their army. And talking about the elected politicians and the army of Pakistan, the Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and the army chief, General Asim Munir, were both on a visit to Turkey. It is the first country that they are visiting after the recent conflict between India and Pakistan. It's an indication of the shoring up of this new partnership between Pakistan and Turkey. The bigger question is for India and for policymakers here in India. How should India respond to this new emerging axis